Welcome back to my Americanisms Explained videos. This video and the next few videos we're going to be talking about high school, American high schools, and some of the things that we do in high schools and a lot of stuff like that. So the first thing we're going to be talking about are the American high school years. Now, these are actually a lot older than people realize, and they came from England, of all places. We were originally a colony of England, and so it's not surprising that we brought these over with us when we started building colleges and things here in the U.S. But these particular terms for the American high school years, they baffle people that don't use these. And the thing is the thing that I find funny about this is that Britain no longer uses these terms. They do first year, second year, things like that. We're starting to adopt that as well to make it a little bit easier to understand. But originally these were applied to college, and they kind of trickled down to the American high school system. And again, they have their origins in England. In fact, the oldest of the college terms, freshman is the first one. I shouldn't just say college terms, but the oldest term here is freshman, which was used as far back as 1608 in England. So it's been quite a while that they've been using this. And originally it was just freshman. It was 2 words. I don't know exactly when it was put together, but this was used to designate the first year students. The next one, sophomore. It is spelled sophomore, but we don't pronounce that O. It's sophomore. This came from sophomore, which is a combination of 2 Greek words, sophos and moros. Sophos meaning wise or wisdom, and moros meaning foolish. So a sophomore is a wise fool, and sophomore is used to designate a second year high school student. The next one is junior, and this comes from junior sophister or sophister. So the junior sophister, this again has dual meaning here. Junior being the younger of 2, and so in relation to the seniors, they are the younger class. And then sophister was originally used as a synonym for the word philosopher. So it had that same connotation of being wise, but it has actually changed meanings. Not surprisingly, this again goes back to being a wise fool. So sophister or sophistry now refers to people who reason with faulty logic. So this is saying that their logic is not yet matured and their reasoning is not yet matured. So, and plus they are the junior of the 2 classes. So this is the junior is now used to refer to the 3rd year high school students. Senior, this is again, it comes from the sophister. So this is the senior sophister, and the senior being the older of the 2. So we have the junior and then the senior. So the senior is the 4th year high school or college student, and that's where these came from, is actually England. We brought them over when the colonists first came and started colonizing the United States and started building their own educational institutions, and we still use them after all this time, even though originally we got them from England and England stopped using these terms. We still use them. All right, school start times. Does school really start at 7 a.m.? The answer to that question is no. School doesn't really start at 7 a.m. When I was younger, school for me started at 7:30, as I recall. So I was often at school around 7 o'clock in the morning. It seems that people have been pushing that time back. So at one point, school may have started at 7 a.m. I'm not really sure on that. I just know for me, when I was in elementary school, we didn't start until, like, I want to say 8:30, and I think my brothers and sisters that went after me, they didn't start until even 9 o'clock. But when I got into high school didn't start until 7:30. And my kids now, for them, high school starts at 8 a.m. So it's actually been getting progressively later as the years have gone by. I did a quick Google search to see what times other countries started at, and it looks like in a lot of the world, 8 o'clock seems to be about the start time for high schools. Let's see, Italy, China, Russia, Chile, Kenya, they all start at 8 a.m. Australia and their start time was 8:30. Finland had the latest start. Their start time that I could see from my brief search, was by no means exhaustive. They start between 9 and 9:45. So that would have been nice. And then I did see a post on Quora from a Singaporean student, and he was saying, or she was saying, that the school started for them at 7:30. So the United States doesn't even have the earliest start time anymore. It's now Singapore, at least from what I could tell. There might be schools that start, countries that start their school at 7. Not entirely sure. But no, we don't really start school at 7 a.m. At least not anymore, or not that I've known of anyway. All right, cheerleaders. There are certain stereotypes of cheerleaders, and yes, they actually do exist. There is a cheerleading squad. I don't know if every single school has a cheerleading squad. Most of the public schools do have that cheerleading squad. When you get into, say, junior high and high school, when your school starts participating against other schools in sports, you have cheerleaders for your teams. And again, there's a lot of stereotypes around cheerleaders, that they're stuck up, they're thin, they're tiny, they're pretty, they're blonde, they're dumb, they're not athletes. From my experience, what I can say is that the stereotypes will exist for a reason. And I'm sure you can find plenty of people who know cheerleaders currently, or that have known cheerleaders in the past, that actually matched up with all of these particular stereotypes. I was not an athlete in high school, so I didn't hang around the cheerleaders a lot. But the ones that I did have classes with, they were nice. I didn't have any problems. There was one that was a friend, casual acquaintance friend, from even before we went to high school. She was thin, she was pretty, but she wasn't blonde, and she definitely wasn't dumb. She was taking advanced classes and all that stuff. So there are going to be people who actually match those stereotypes, and then people who don't match those stereotypes. There is a tendency for the people in high school, at least here in the U.S., I don't know about other high schools in other countries, but they do tend to gravitate towards their clique, their group. And so, the cheerleaders would hang out with the cheerleaders because they were always, going to sporting events together. They were always, practicing together. So they naturally became friends, became pretty close-knit. And I think some of that feeds into the stereotype that they're stuck up because they're only hanging around other cheerleaders, and they would date athletes, but they were around the athletes all the time. They had to go to all the games. They had to cheer on the athletes. They were thrown together quite a bit, so it would be common for a cheerleader and an athlete to date. The fact that people think of them as not athletes, well, they don't do things like play sports necessarily, but there are cheerleading competitions, and they do quite a bit of gymnastics and do a lot of training that way. So calling them non-athletes, I think, does them a disservice. And, partially because of those gymnastics and things that they do, being thin does help them in what they're doing. They have all those aerial maneuvers, they have throws, they have catches, and it's going to be a lot easier to toss somebody who's pretty small up in the air than it is to be tossing somebody that's much bigger. I mean, that's just, physics right there. So the fact that they're small and everything actually plays into what they do as athletes when they go to games and things like that. The other thing, them being pretty, that is pretty much a common stereotype, and I can't even say that that you can't prove that it's not true of cheerleaders. They're usually pretty, and the reason for that being that, I don't know if they only select. I've never been in the selection process for cheerleaders. I've heard it's pretty tough. I've heard that people who don't conform to a certain standard of beauty won't get into the cheerleading squad and things like that. So there could be some truth to that. But yes, we do have these cheerleaders. These are common cheerleading stereotypes. From what I've experienced, there's some truth, but for the most part, I would say no. That not all of these things apply equally, but that's just true of everybody. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess. All right, hall passes. People hear about these hall pass things and they're like, what on earth? Why do you need a hall pass? Why do you need a hall to pass to walk around in the hall? So a hall pass is permission from your teacher to leave the classroom. While class is in session, you're not supposed to leave. You're supposed to be sitting there in your desk attending the lesson. That's what you're supposed to do. And it could be that this has arisen from the fact that, students in the past may have, and I shouldn't just say students in the past. They still do it. Students will skip class. And so this is a way to make sure that the students are where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So I can't say that I ever had a problem obtaining a hall pass from a teacher. If I needed, they did encourage us to use the bathroom between classes, get a drink, whatever else that we needed to do between classes, so that once we were in class, we didn't need to leave for any reason. And that being said, I don't feel that I ever had an issue with that. If I needed to go to the bathroom during class, it was easy enough to go walk up to the teacher. Obviously, they wouldn't want you going to the bathroom while they were giving their lesson. But if you're just sitting there and you're supposed to be doing your classwork or whatever, you just walk up to the teacher and say, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. And the teacher would hand you the hall pass. And usually it was a physical thing. Something like you could hang around your neck. I mean, the picture here is he's holding a card in his hand that says hall pass. That's usually something. It was usually something of that nature, some physical object that you would take with you. And then if another teacher saw you in the hall, you would show them the hall pass, and they would know that you had permission from your teacher to be out in the hall. If you didn't have that hall pass, then that was a signal to that teacher to find out who you were, which class you were supposed to be there, which class you're supposed to be in, and then escort you to your class. Make sure that you were where you were supposed to be. It's gotten a lot more, a lot more important, especially with the gun violence in the United States, that students be where they're supposed to be, in their classes, doing their learning. So it's not, before school, And between classes, no, you didn't have to have a hall pass. The hall pass was only for this special circumstances when you needed to leave class for whatever reason. If you got, called down to the office, if you needed to go meet with another teacher, any of that kind of stuff. Most of the time the teacher wouldn't deny you a hall pass unless like you'd proved in the past that you were abusing the hall pass privilege, like you would go to the bathroom and then you didn't come back until the end of class. The teacher might not give you the hall pass the next day, or be less inclined to give you the hall pass. Like I said, I never had a problem with it, and it was just to allow you to go out to use whatever facilities you needed, get a drink, go to the bathroom, visit another teacher, whatever it happened to be, you could totally use that hall pass. And it just meant I can be out of my classroom for right now, even though I should be in the class. So lunchtime was the same. During lunch, didn't need the hall pass. You're supposed to be out in the halls, going to the cafeteria, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, that's what the hall pass was for. Now, school start dates. School in the U.S. typically starts around August. There are some school districts and things that still start in September around Labor Day. Labor Day is, I want to say September 6th, but I'm probably wrong there. September 5th. It's the first Monday in September. So this year it was September 5th. So there are some schools that start after Labor Day, but schools have been starting in August much more frequently. I don't know the reason for it. When I was going to school originally, school started in September. But then after I'd gone to school for a couple years, it was pretty early. And as I recall, school started basically the last week of August. And this year they actually started even earlier. It's like the second to last week of August. I was surprised that my kids had to go back to school that quickly. I have no idea why. I can't find anything that says this is why we're doing it. However, there are certain things that I've noticed. So when I was going to school originally, way back when, we got a spring break, just like the colleges and stuff here in the U.S. get a spring break, but we only got one day for spring break. It was like a Monday. You got it off. You didn't have to come in until Tuesday. That was usually the norm for spring break. However, in recent years, the schools have been giving the students a whole week off for spring break, just like the colleges do. So it could be that the reason for some of this pushing back the start date into August is to accommodate more time off during the school year. Not entirely sure on that. The other thing is that I know that a lot of people, I don't really understand this myself. Like I said, when I first started, school started in September, and then it would get out the first week of June. More and more, for some reason, they want the entire month of June off. Personally, I think that we should arrange it so that school started in September and ended at the end of May, so we had, June, July, and August completely off of school. And it didn't bleed over either way into those 3 months. But their school start days can be pretty contentious in any case. That's it for this video. Look forward to more high school Americanisms next week. And until then, have fun. And don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below, and check out my other videos.